Hey everyone. So I was having some thoughts about things that I wish someone had taken me aside and told me and when I first started working out. Now granted, I think my first time in a weight room was somewhere when I was visiting my uncle for the summer and he was in the army, so we were on an army base. But I know my first real experience in a weight room was in high school for sports. So there's a couple things that I wish somebody had just taken me aside and explained to me, besides the long and drawn out process of building muscle and everything. These are in no particular order. I'm just kind of just shooting at some things that I thought would have been very helpful and important to understand. One thing is, I wish somebody had taught me that it's easier to count reps for a set counting down versus counting up. And you may think, how does that matter? It's actually easier to keep track of your reps when you're counting down than it is when you're counting up. And I think it's just because it's a natural mechanism to count down versus counting up for things. And the way we use the countdown method, you're really used to saying 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Another thing I wish somebody had really explained to me was people are going to watch you, and that in turn will cause people to interact with you either negatively or positively. I'm not going to lie, back when I was in the military, especially when we were deployed, I was kind of the meathead that you guys would hear about that would go in and, would talk bad about other people lifting. And I don't know if it was because of the environment or if it's just because I was still young and stupid. I say young and stupid because I hadn't broken 30 yet, but I digress. So yeah, I was the guy who sometimes I would crack jokes and talk about other people's form and everything. And then eventually I became the guy who I people watched, but it was more because I learned enough that the coach in me kept wanting to come out and wanting to help everyone, even if that wasn't what they needed or wanted. It was just I watched people because I wanted to see them win. So I became the guy who I would watch people, and if they had a good rep, I'd go up and tell them, like, man, that was awesome. That was great. Or I would watch and give some unsolicited advice just because I personally felt that if they kept doing it that way, they were going to run into issues. And this is just from me being a personal trainer, strength coach at the time. Yeah, people are going to want to watch you, but the interactions, it's based on the person. Talking about giving people unsolicited advice, never be afraid to ask for help, but also verify what someone's telling you. Like, I have no problems with telling someone something, and if they come up to me later and be like, hey man, I looked that up, blah, 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 be like, cool, we could talk about it. Because people are human. We make mistakes. I'll tell you, earlier today, I was talking with a guy at the gym. We were talking about the iliopsoas, and I mistook it with the sartorius muscle. So yeah, I made a mistake. See him tomorrow, I'm gonna correct it because I feel like an idiot. But when you learn somewhere between 600 and 840 muscles that are in the human body in anatomy class, it's not always easy to keep them right in your head. Granted, part of a major muscle group, but when was the last time you heard or talked about a sartorius muscle? Going back to that, don't be afraid to ask for help. There's a lot of people who are intimidated, but just look at a person, walk up, ask them, do you mind helping me out? A lot of people are actually going to be more inclined to help you out than to tell you to go away because you're bothering them. Just food for thought. Another thing I wish somebody had told me was putting more weight on the bar isn't the best way to get at your goals. It's a principle to get stronger that you have to put more weight on the bar. But there's multiple ways to get to a goal. And if somebody had explained that to me so I could have looked for more ways than just when I was first starting, going on bodybuilding.com and seeing what the coolest workout from the coolest person was, or things like that, because I didn't know enough to actually create my own workouts. As I started to get more comfortable and I started to learn more, yes, I did. I understood what felt good to me. I knew where my weaknesses were, so I could do that. But just when I was starting out, nope. I was asking all my friends, I'm like, hey, what do I need to do to hit this? What do I need to do to hit that? And looking back on it, it wasn't a bad experience by any means. It just, I wish somebody had told me like the whole classic, just put more weight on the bar wasn't always the best. Continuing on that line of thought, you're gonna have good and bad days. And I'm gonna tell you, some of the days that I haven't felt like being in the gym, working out, are the best workouts I've had. And I think it's because the last thing is, fitness of any sort is 90% mental and 10% physical. You have to get over the hump of actually getting your mind right to do it, and then it's easy. After that, it's easy. And understanding that is hard at times. Okay, to hammer this home, I had a conversation with a kid at the gym. He was doing deadlifts, I was doing bench press. And I sat up from my bench, just finished my set. I was looking at him, and he was struggling. And I think he could tell by looking at me that I was kind of concerned. And he walked up and he asked me, he's like, hey man, am I doing this right? And I walked up to him and, I helped him, and his form, yeah, he got it. He looked a lot better. We talked about it because he said he used to play baseball. And I told him, I was like, the biggest thing is consistency. You have to think about it. I gave him 3 things to focus on when he's doing it. Focus on these 3 things consistently. You don't want to do 10 reps. You want to do the same rep 10 times. And to me, that technique is more important than the weight you're putting on, which goes back to that one about not having all of the weight on the bar, because you need to have all the weight on the bar. 90% mental. Some days it's just getting to the gym that is the hardest part. Like for me, some days that is actually the hardest part, just to get there. Once I'm there, game on. Getting in that mental mindscape of versus I need to go do this because then I can start my day versus, oh my gosh, I gotta go do this. I gotta go do this. I gotta go do this. There's a whole difference. And then once you're over that mental hump, 10%, boom, you just go do it. Change weights if you're not feeling that great, or if you're feeling really, really good, add a little bit more. So those are just a couple of things I found would have been beneficial on my own personal fitness journey. This is almost 30 years since my first trip to a weight room. So yeah, anyways, I hope you got something out of this one. I'll catch y'all later. Peace.